At Trailer Ranch in Loomis, Joe Medeiros, Sierra College professor of biology and interdisciplinary, and fellow educator Dwayne Wilson discussed the value of local natural areas.
When you have a state that has 36 million people and counting.
Joe and Dwayne also discuss how few natural areas are actually public land in and around Rockland.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at this. 90 acres here is pretty good size, but it's just a small chunk of what we really need. Up on the ridge over there is, of course, Bickford Ranch, and then Clover Valley down below. Since we've been out here, we've seen turkeys. I'm hearing a pheasant in the background. I've seen so many different finches and hawks and woodpeckers. This place is biologically rich. We've got 3 different species of oaks just as we're walking along in here. It's an absolutely wonderful place. Like out here in the oaks and everything, you have all of these processes going on, and I don't think people really really understand processes, photosynthesis, respiration, things that are so valuable, so incredibly valuable to us, but we just we take them for granted. They're silent, but they're life, and.
Given the how hectic life is with both parents working, it's very difficult for a family to get their kids into nature, especially if they have to drive long distances. I think what's really needed is local areas where the kids can go and with easy access and still have a lot of opportunity to see all these interactions.
Right.
Well, this in itself is a wonderful nature area. It's very open, and you see around you see civilization. One of the unique things about Clover Valley is that it's an enclosed area with steep side hills, and yet in a very small area, 600 acres, there are 5 distinct ecosystems interacting. You have the riparian corridor, the grasslands, oak woodlands, wetlands, and seasonal wetlands. And students could see that, young people could see that, and see the interaction, and see how the animals vary from one area to the other in just this small space.
No, those are actually white-tailed kites, and the one behind is a juvenile, kind of bothering the mom, looking for a little bit of food. And there's some goldfinches right there. There's a Say's phoebe and a black phoebe. This place is incredible for the number of birds that are out here.
The diversity of it.
To Clover Valley, this little patch, and if you could just add, hundreds, really, I think we need thousands of acres eventually. If you think about how little of this type of habitat is protected in California, the foothills are not represented at all. There's 90% of the foothills are privately owned, and there's no access to them at all.
Look at the development that's taking place in South Placer County. It's just absolutely incredible. And they're virtually building houses everywhere. And what habitat is available, what natural habitat is available, is just being gobbled up by developers.
Another beautiful wetland, fortunately protected here. These wetlands, I mean, they're so great for people of all ages to enjoy the species that are there, and besides their ecological value.
That's true. They're a great filtration system for taking out pollution and ensuring that we're going to have fresh water in our aquifers, our underground water sources.
Absolutely. Besides water quality, water purification, soil stabilization, flood control. These things are outstanding ecosystems, and they're so valuable to protect.
Trailer Ranch, less than 5 minutes from Clover Valley, shows that saving nature can be done.
About 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours.
The next day, Marilyn and Ken Votaw escorted me onto the valley floor. Fortunately, we were able to access Clover Valley from her brother's property.
This really is an isolated place.
Not only it's isolated, it's hard to get to, as you can see. Public cannot access it, and it's hidden. Figure out what we're going to do with the parade before the Jubilee. Are you going to be in it?
Oh yeah, I'm going to be there. So
Good.
I hope I don't have to act up too much.
Yeah. Well, then we'll figure out our booth, what kind of handouts we're going to have, what kind of materials, brochures.
While Ken and Marilyn had seen the valley perhaps hundreds of times before, there was still no shortage of discovery.
That is part of the creek, which I believe has been dammed by beavers. It looks like a lake. What looks like a dark trail is water. See if you can. I'm going to try to capture it on the thing, but I bet it's a beaver dam because I've never seen that much water. Do you see where I'm looking?
I can't even see the water.
Okay, I know because it looks dark. It's
Where there's a light just...
yes. So here it is.
Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful down here.
This is the valley floor, and the Indian, Native American prehistoric sites are all out here. 33 prehistoric sites, all eligible for National Registry. Those are the ones we know about.
Right.
We really think there are more than that because the blackberries cover so much.
Right.
There are also an estimated, give or take, 300 bedrock mortars.
Okay.
And actually they claim, or there are people who say that every bedrock mortar represents 1.5 Native Americans that actually occupied that site,
Yeah.
temporarily or depending on where the game was.
Yeah.
So whether there's 150 bedrock mortars or 300, you just do the math and you get an idea of how populated this was. It was a major trading hub.
Okay.
So a lot of different routes ended here for the trading.
I see.
And when you're walking along here, you have the sense that you've stepped back in time.
Yes.
It's not like anything else.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
You can get a feel of how quiet this is. The only thing we're hearing right now are sounds of nature's blackbirds, some other birds. It's just very peaceful. And up there, to the right of that tree, a proposed 4-lane parkway is being considered, which will come down the hillside on the diagonal, taking out many trees, blue oaks and whatnot. It'll cross the creek, which will dissect the riparian woodlands, which will cut up the corridor, the wildlife corridor, fill in some wetlands, and then go on across the valley floor up to the other side and take out more trees. The noise alone from that parkway will destroy the ambiance that we have here at this point. Well, because this is private property, we can't go any further, but if we could go on this road, we would continue in a northerly direction, and we'd go into some narrows and then wide open meadows. Finally, the road would Y, and to the left would take us across the creek. We'd have to wade across. To the right would take us further. We'd go through very narrow, brush-covered, tree-canopied areas. We have to duck to get under. And then it opens up into little meadows, and that happens maybe 2 or 3 times. When I first saw the valley, I saw it from above, and that was beautiful enough. But the first time I ever came in here, I drove in on Clover Valley Road. Again, tunneled, trees covering very, very narrow passageway, and then it just broke open. And what I saw was this valley with all its wetlands.
Great.
The next day, we decided to visit the Golden Hills area, which we had seen across the valley the other day.
There's the water tower, and right on the other side of that is Boulder Ridge Park.
Yeah. Is this right here where they're going to build the commercial development?
This is where it's proposed, and this is where the parkway will come out.
Oh, no.
4 lanes.
To complete the circle around Clover Valley, we decided to visit the valley floor one last time. Early the next morning, we hiked into the valley floor to ponder the Native American presence and to hopefully see some wildlife.
Here bounding over the ferries.
Look at how the light is just now starting to be in half of the valley.
All these oak woodlands. Just imagine the number of acorns that they could process.
And the salmon and the steelhead probably
Yes.
came all the way up here
Yes,
as well.
right.
I think that stream, Clover Valley Creek, that was a big part of their lives. If I was a kid, you'd be running back and forth, jumping on the rocks, and looking for frogs. A lot of things for a kid to do in this valley.
Oh, yeah. The coyote we saw down that way.
Coyote on the rock, sunning its,
I
yeah.
wish we could have seen him closer.
Yeah.
He looked pretty big.
Yeah.
Wildlife, and just seeing the deer there, and I'll bet you could do the same thing in half a dozen different places.
Environmental consultants Dave Bennett and Doug Brewer discuss the environmental and cultural impacts of the proposed development in Clover Valley.
Beaver dams all the way up the creek. So have you seen those?
That's what's created this one wetland
Yeah.
here is a beaver dam.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just briefly touch upon the biology here of Clover Valley because to me as a biologist it's quite unique. This is an island of wildlife habitat in what is a sea of concrete rooftops in Rockland. What we have here is one big habitat unit, a complex mosaic of oak woodlands, riparian forest, willow, California buckeye, and all kinds of different types of habitats here. The diversity of the plants here also allows for diversity of animals that you see in the valley. And what you find out here is a wide diversity of wildlife, from a black-tailed deer, wild turkeys, raccoons, opossums, all types of raptors and songbirds. And this is the last remaining place for them to live in this area. This is unique, probably one of the first perennial streams that come off this valley volcanic mud flow, which on the other side of this ridge, there are no perennial streams. And so I think that's why the habitation here, that's 7,000 years of cultural or civilization here, is because there was a permanent water supply, abundance of oak woodlands for food, and just a great resource.
Well, yeah, plus until the mid-'80s, salmon were still spawning up here. I know whether they're still up here or not is yet to be proven, I guess, but this is prime salmon and steelhead habitat, and you can see why if you're an Indian it would be an attractive place, you know, with so many oaks and acorns, and then as you say, all the abundance of wildlife that you don't get just on the other side of the hill, because then you're out into the flats of the valley,
right,
valley floor wide open, but here we've got protection and habitat that.
Well, this orientation too, like you said earlier, the orientation of this valley, the north-south orientation provides a lot more shade and coolness in these hot summers we've had.
Yeah.
And you know, if you were living out on the open land, you obviously would want to have your homes in the shade in the middle of summer here in this valley. So it's very
unique orientation as well.
Downside was the grizzly bears, though, because apparently grizzly bears did used to live here, and because it was such a rich habitat, they tended to like to forage up and down the valley. So I know I've heard the stories of the Indians, and they'd build their houses in about
They would dig down
about 3 feet down,
right.
And there wouldn't be a door, there'd just be a hole in the top. So someone would see a grizzly bear coming up the valley, looking for salmon or what have you, and hey, everybody would panic and jump down the hole, and they'd have a constant fire going with the smoke billowing out. And the bear would come up and take a look, and hey, too smoky for me, and he'd go on by. But that, rich habitats bring rich habitats.
Rich predators.
Right. When the Indians lived here through the years, they build their huts in circles, and they were slightly in a depression, so they could hop in and hide from the bears. And in fact, you should be, well, okay, right there.
That big rock is right there?
Right, just below that rock, you can see the discoloration in the grass. Okay, those are
the depressions.
Those are at that main cultural site where they're scattered throughout the valley, but you can see the depressions. The discolored grass is in the depressions where they had their round community huts, and that's where the bulk of the group would live in those, and it's still, even to this day,
still there.
Yeah. You stand down here, and through most of your field of vision, you could be in 2000 BC. I mean, you're out of the normal time context when you're standing down the bottom of the valley.
J.P. Whitney owned all of his 20,000 acres as far as the eye.
Anything with it.
Never touched it. And then all the owners after that, there's a dairy operation here in the 60s and so on, but nothing's been graded here. So what we see, and what's another unique part of this, is this whole valley, despite its time, has been unchanged.
Yeah, now think about that a minute. I mean, think about that in the context of western Placer County. Where can you go in western Placer County and find this, a valley like, certainly not a valley like this, because there isn't another one, but an area of this size that hasn't had, at one point or another, especially since the gold rush, hasn't had roads and grading and leveling and things that have happened through the years. I mean, this is something it has never been changed. It's as it was, at least from there to up there. It's like it's been
since time.
Since time.
Yeah. Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
This property stops right.
As Dave and Doug emphasize, what's at stake here is far too great to sacrifice for development.
Up in that canyon. Most of Rockland from here to Highway 65 is going to be paved over, and why should we do that here? And so I think we have a chance, to save this.
But once it's gone,
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Clover Valley, how'd you stay so true when all around you that big city grew? It grew around you, but it left you alone to keep your secrets. Now we will know how the Indians slept in the meadow and watched the stars at night and watched you grow. All around them, like a clover blanket, Clover Valley, don't let us forget how you've waited all of this time. You're the last one, you're the last of your kind, and I will promise not to look away. Someone tries to take you away. Clover Valley, would you stay?